It makes me so happy. It means the world to me. It really, really does. My name is Matt Thomas. I teach in the greatest school district with the greatest parent liaisons, with the greatest parents, with the greatest employees, Paris Union High School District. Thank you. And I don't just say that because some of them are in the room right now. Like, I really, truly believe that. I am an English teacher. I've been teaching English for 17 years, mainly 9th grade and ELD, multilingual learners, mainly areas 3 and 4, levels 3 and 4 of ELD. For the past year and a half, I've been an instructional coach in our district office. So it's been amazing to be able to see kind of the other side of how things work. Now, I will tell you, I've never spoken on a stage before, too. I'm going to probably get down and walk around because I'm a pacer. That's how I do it. I do want to ask, though, I want to acknowledge you guys. So, how many of you, even if you play another role, where's our parents in the room? Like, even if you're a teacher, you're a parent. Guys, round of applause for the parents, is what they do. Awesome, guys. Can I ask you, where's our paraeducators in the room? Round of applause for the paraeducators. Seriously, you guys are extremely underpaid for what you have to put up with. Oh my gosh. Coaches, where's our coaches and TOSAs or any of that role? Great. Round of applause for the coaches and the TOSAs. Nice. Where's our teachers? Where's our teachers? A nice round of applause for the teachers. Great, of course. Where's our administrators in the room? Whatever admin role, round of applause for our administrators. So, little side note, I was not planning to say this. I'm going to do that a lot throughout the presentation. I didn't really truly understand what our admin did for us as teachers until I became working like as an instructional coach for the district office, and I could see how our admin fight for us in those meetings. And then they have to, if they say their piece, they say, no, our teachers need this. But if they get shut down, then they have to come back to our school site and sell what they were told to sell, right? As hard as they can, because that's their job. So admin, thank you so much. I think that teachers, if we really truly understand how much you protect us from things that we don't even know that you have to put up with, there would be less conflict on campus. I really do believe that. So thank you, admin. Where's our counselors at? Oh yeah, do it for admin. Where's our counselors at? Where's our counselors? Show of hands, guys. Round of applause for the counselors. Holy cow. Great stuff. Where's our parent liaisons at? Our parent liaisons, round of applause for them and all that they do. Now, I took out the other. Where's our other? Like, you fall into another category. Round of applause for the other. Now, I use round of applauses a lot in my class because I like to acknowledge what people do. Because if we acknowledge what the great things our students do, it tells them that it's okay for them to repeat it. Because oftentimes in education, we tend to focus on more negative things. You need to do this. You need to do that. Admin, when you do observations, hey, teachers, you should do this. Parents with our kids, hey, you need to start working harder. As opposed to, damn, I really appreciate all that you do. I really appreciate this. Joey, I appreciate that you picked the trash up, even though you didn't drop it. Thank you so much. That tells Joey that he should repeat that good behavior. And admin, imagine this. If you're walking through a classroom and you tell the teacher, you observe for a couple of minutes or whatever, and you tell the teacher all the great things that teacher did. Nothing to work on, but dude, it was so great that you walked around and did this. Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks for doing it. It reminds us to keep doing those positive things. And that way, then we're more open to things like, hey, what about trying this? It's the same for you parents with our kids. Reminding our students the great things that they do, reminding our children the great things that they do. So I don't use round of applauses too much to where it gets overdone. You know, you do something too much, it loses its value. But I use round of applauses quite a bit. And as a teacher, if a student says something that's really valuable, I'll be like, dude, Joey, let's give Joey a round of applause. I'll use that. Because it reminds them to keep continuing those great things. Plus, it gives our students more confidence in class to say things out. Parents, it'll give your kids more confidence in class to come to class. The classroom of life, right? It's a metaphor. It'll give our kids much more confidence to come to you for things when you're more open and you praise their great work. So I'm going to tell you a few things about myself. One, I do talk fast because I'm excited, not because I'm nervous. I love this stuff. I know I talk fast. I'm like Lady Gaga. I was born that way, right? So when I'm really excited, I do that a lot. I'm also an introvert. You won't believe me. Because I get on stage and I speak and I teach, but I'm a total introvert. When I'm done, I need to recharge. If you don't believe me, maybe the gentleman is in here right now. An hour before the presentation, I was downstairs, sitting in a chair, staring at a wall, charging up. But that's what I do. And I say that because for you people that are more reserved people can make great teachers. Being an introvert, there's a reason why I do this. And I'll explain that and how it's so important for our children and for our students. I do get tunnel vision, which means right now I'm presenting a presentation that I've done so many times, that I have so much love and passion for, that I'm like this. I'm terrible at stopping what I'm doing, explaining something completely different, and then coming back to it. So if I'm talking about the hippocampus, and someone's like, what about the angular gyrus and its impact on reading comprehension? I'm terrible at saying what I was saying, answering that question completely, and then coming back to that. I tell my students know that about me. I say that because I believe in openness and honesty. So as I'm speaking, if you have a question, can you please hold it till the end? And then I promise you I'll stick around and answer every question you have, because that way I can just get in the flow. Today is going to be less about research and more about the answers, because I don't want to put you to sleep. So if I go, here's how our brain does it, let's look at 7 papers that support that. None of you would want to be here, and my goal is to keep you here, right? I'll talk about that as well a little bit later on. It's very important to know the why. I think in education we don't know the why enough. Admin, you have a difficult position because you have to push strategies that education has put upon you. So you go into a teacher's classroom and you say, hey teacher, do this. As teachers, we need to go, why? Well, because it works. Who said it worked? The district next to us does it. Define what it works means. I read it in a book somewhere. No, we need to be asking why more. Because, and I say this respectfully because I'm an educator, sometimes in education, we make stuff up. Because it sounds good in theory, and it's not our fault. I'll explain that. And so we need to ask why a lot more. Parents, our children will come to us with questions. And if we have the answers, we want our children to say why. And we don't want to say because I said so. Because that's not the answer they want. We want our children to ask why, because their brain is growing and we want that. They're curious. They want to know the answer. And if we don't give them the answer, and sometimes the answer is, I don't know, let me look it up. But if we don't give them the answer, they're going to go find the answer somewhere else, and it probably will be wrong. So asking why is not bad, and we need to know the importance of that, especially in our job of education. Oh my gosh. Coaches, I'm going to give you a lot of why today. So when you go back, you're like, dude, teacher, you got to try this. And they go, why? Go, dude, let me tell you. Because this is how it impacts this with the brain. Boom! And then you look like you're a genius. So here's what I'm playing today. So I need to play the role of two roles, essentially, is what I'm playing. So I'm playing the role of teacher. I've been a teacher for 19 years. I'm going to be a teacher till I retire. I hope I don't fall off this platform. Sorry, I just thought that right now. I'm not going to talk on stage. I'm like, this is actually kind of cool, but I hope I don't fall. If I do fall, please check to make sure I'm okay before you laugh at me. If I give you the thumbs up, then go ahead and laugh. It'll be hilarious. But I'm going to play the role of teacher, right? I've been a teacher for 19 years. I'm going to be till I retire. I also have to play the role of neuroeducator. I'm currently working on a dual master's degree in neuropsychology and neuroeducation, and so I'm playing both roles today. Because the reality is, neuroscientists know how the brain works. But unless a neuroscientist has spent a significant amount of time doing what we do, primary, secondary classroom, not college class, I mean working with kids, unless they spend a significant amount of time doing what we do, they can't accurately apply what they know, their knowledge about how the brain works, to activities that we need for tomorrow. Right? And that's the goal. Right? No theory, I'm teaching Johnny how to read tomorrow, give me something. The thing about education, how he said sometimes education sometimes makes stuff up, it's not always all fault. See, as teachers, we understand the art of pedagogy. We need the importance of performance. We know that we need to get our students engaged. But unless we have a significant knowledge about how the brain works, we also won't be able to accurately apply neuroscience, how the brain works, to things that we can use. So what we do is this. Neuroscientists and behavioral psychologists use metaphors and analogies to take complex information and make it more accessible. They use metaphors a lot, which we do as great teachers, right? We do as great parents. So if our children aren't getting something, then we tend to use a metaphor. Oh, it's like this. The issue is, because neuroscientists and behavioral psychologists use metaphors, that's not the complete answer. Education sometimes takes the metaphor and makes it the truth. That's where issues can happen, because we're teaching based on incomplete information. Throughout the presentation, I'll make sure I address that as well. So here's what I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you the slideshow with all the video access. I have a YouTube channel, Teach Based on Science. I don't know if you heard my voice crack right there. Hey guys, how's it going? It's like I'm back in high school. Wait. We loved high school. Where's our high school teachers at? High school teachers? Awesome. You guys are awesome. Oh, I have to say this. Middle school teachers, where are those people at? Middle school, round of applause for the middle school teachers, because they teach like, holy cow. No joke. Wow. Thank you. You make my job so much easier, middle school teachers. So, the slideshow with video access. I'm going to give you access to my YouTube channel with over 90 videos highlighting best teaching strategies based on neuroscience and behavioral psychology. I'm going to give you this recorded presentation. It's being recorded right there. Hopefully it picks everything up. I'll link that as well so that you don't have to remember anything. You don't have to take notes. I want you to just sit and enjoy. I don't want you to have the pressure of like, I got to write that down. You'll have access to everything. The reality is the things that you find the most relatable to you, relevant to you, is what you're going to remember most. And then you'll be like, what was that again? I'll have the video for you so you can watch it. So let me quickly give you my history of behavioral psychology. Before I was a high school teacher, I owned a small business. I was a kickboxer. I owned a small business, owned a kickboxing gym. Did that for 10 years. Just like most small business owners, I read a lot of business books. And business books are all about behavioral psychology. How do you make your clients feel valued? How do you make them feel appreciated? How do you make them find what you're giving them valuable? And how can you apply it to their real life? And when they're not with you, how do you get it to where they want to be with you? That's what business is all about. Coming and taking, using my service. If they don't find that with me, they're going to go somewhere else, or they're just not going to get the service at all. So when I became a high school teacher, and I became a high school teacher because one of my students named Kevin, he was a very angry teenager. He didn't have a dad in his life. He was a big heavy metal guy. I'm a big heavy metal guy too. And he came to me one day, like really angry. I had my voice cracked again too, sorry. He came to me really angry. And I said, Kevin, what's up? And he goes, I hate school. And I asked him why, and he goes, they don't get me. My teachers don't get me. He goes, you get me. I wish you were my teacher. And I went, I'm going to sell my school and become a teacher. And that's literally how it was. And when I went to the classroom, I brought all those elements of owning a business into the classroom. Because as teachers, it's the closest thing to owning a business. We have our clients, we have our students, our parents, and our admin. We have to make them feel valued in our class. We have to make them feel appreciated. We want them to enjoy coming to us, and we have to have them believe that what we're teaching them applies to the real world. And so when I became a teacher right away, it was almost instant success. My students were #1 in the district on their district test scores for 16 years in a row. And I don't say that to brag because I'm not a test person. Tests are not accurate indicators of IQ. They're not accurate indicators of long-term success and happiness. What tests are easy ways for one school to compare to another school. That's what tests are. And so, but I bring that up to show, again, just credibility. I won a Teacher of the Year award. I won a lot of local teaching awards as well. But what I'm really proud of is I got a lot of parent praise. And I'm a big believer in, as teachers, we got to protect our admin. We got to protect our parents. We definitely got to protect our students. But I got a lot of parental praise. I have a video for you teachers. I have a video linked on how I did it. Short story is this. So how many of you, as teachers, right, we email our parents and let them know what's going on. I would do that at least once a week. But here's the thing about email. When you send an email to someone, tone is so difficult to interpret when you read stuff, texts and emails. So what happens is this. People will read your email or text in the tone that they're used to hearing from. So for example, if you're a teacher and your student's parents previously was working with a teacher who was just kind of a jerk and was always like, rah, they're going to read your email in that tone because that's all they know. And so what I started doing is video messages. Once a week for the parents, 2 minutes long. I'm an English teacher, so writing a long email takes an hour because I proofread 17 times. But in a video, I could just do it once and go, yeah, that looked good. And so I would say, like, hey, parents, this is about time we should send an hour's English teacher. Next week, we're doing Romeo and Juliet. This is exactly what they can do to get an A. Next week, I'm going to have them write and create and perform their own Shakespearean play in class. It's going to be awesome. You guys are great. Thank you. I would send a 2-minute email. Video message. That way, parents can hear my tone. Make sure you smile when you do it. Hear my tone, so that if I had to call the parents for an issue, gosh, Joey's normally great, but this time, blah, blah, blah. Parents know I'm not a jerk because they've seen my face. They've seen me smile. They know my tone. Parents loved that. The reason parents loved it is because I was the only teacher that did it. And I told all the teachers I did it. No one did it because it takes a little work. So I promise you, if you do that, you'll be the parent's favorite teacher at school because no one else is going to do it. Because it does take a little work. And I'm a big believer in this. When I say there's like a general parent and a general teacher, we all know what that means. It doesn't take that much effort to be that much better as a teacher. I'm a big believer on that. Also, if you're like me and you dread calling parents, I have a parent script for parents if you want to call and praise the student. I have a script if you need to call home for an issue. So if you're like me and you're more reserved and you stare at the phone for 10 minutes before you actually pick it up and call the parent, use my scripts. They're also in Spanish. And the scripts are based on how I would literally call parents, because I'm a big believer in authenticity. Everything I give you is what I've used throughout my career. It's not something that's theoretical. I didn't get it from a textbook. So it all is about behavioral psychology. It will guide you through the best way to contact parents and talk to parents. And also I have a video on how to use that. So I've got that for you there. So there we go. Okay, wait. So that was my behavioral psychology. This is my neuroscience. So this is how I got into neuroscience. I got into neuroscience because of, sorry, there's a delay. I want to make sure my presentation. Okay. So I got into neuroscience because of that girl. That's my daughter. She's 7 years old. Her name's Sophia. When my daughter was born, when my wife was pregnant, I knew I was like Eminem. I have one shot. Thank you. I'm so glad. Thank you. Like, are these going to work? Let's see. Thank you. I had one shot at being a great dad. And let's be real. We're teachers. We know that not all parents are supportive. And, not all can be, right? So I didn't want to mess it up. I had one shot at being a great dad. So I read every single neuroscience and baby brain book I could find. And one of them talked about wonder weeks or developmental leaps. If you're a parent, you might know what those are. And so it literally is like, week 1, this is what's going to happen with your child. Week 2, week 5, week 17. Here's what happens when they go into a tantrum. Here's how to not have a tantrum occur in the first place. And I'm reading this, and I'm going, oh my gosh. I went to my wife, and I said, we have the owner's manual, right? We have literally the answers to the most difficult tests in the world, being a great parent. And my wife wasn't as excited as I was. She's like, okay. I'm like, no, seriously, this is amazing. She's like, well, I just highlighted it. I'm like, okay. So I did. And I got really excited. And this is why I'm on stage. Because I'm an introvert that loves this stuff. Because what I did was I thought, wait, people always comment about kids, and the comments about kids are very consistent. Comments about teenagers are also very consistent. They talk back. They don't have organizational skills. They always care about what their friends think about them. They don't have long-term consequences. They don't think about their actions. I said, maybe teenagers go through developmental stages as well. So I started doing the research, and they absolutely do. Everything your teens, kids, doesn't matter what stage it is, everything they do can be explained by a developmental stage, unless there's a learning issue that's different. But everything can be explained by a learning stage. And so, the thing about teenagers, sorry guys, okay, there we go. So the thing about, I'm screwing this up because the delay. All right. So the thing is though, teenagers go through developmental stages as well, but when they do it, it's not as cute as when kids do it. Right? So we have to kind of have a little more patience. And so our takeaway of this, and I'm going to do takeaways as we go on to kind of reiterate what I had said. So I use round of applauses to create confidence and to help, student support, remind kids and students like to do the great things that they normally do. Students go through developmental leaps, and we want that to happen. If our kids don't go through a developmental stage, they're going to stay in that stage. They might sleep on our couch forever. We don't want that. We want to prepare them, right, to get out into the real world. And I will say this, you can do anything if you're interested enough. And so can your children. When parents come to me and they go, hey, my son just doesn't show any interest, I'm scared, I'm afraid he's not going to make it in life. And I'm like, your son's 14. He's got time. He's in that stage, right? He's going to find, sometimes it's night and day. I don't know what I'm going to do. You wake up and go, boom, I'm going to be a neuroscientist. Okay, that'll work. And that's how it works. That's how our brain is. So if you go, great, Matt, that's wonderful. This is CABE, though. What about our multilinguals? Like what you're talking about is like general stuff. Here's the thing. It pertains to our multilinguals because our multilingual learners are kids and teenagers first. And we forget that sometimes. Not us. Education in general forgets that sometimes. because we tend to specialize them and put them in a certain category. And I'm going to talk about that. Throughout this session, I'm going to break some learning myths for you, because there's quite a few out there, and some can be really damaging. One of the learning myths is this: all students need to speak out. Now, I'm not talking about speaking out for reading comprehension. No, sorry, I'm not talking about for listening to someone read. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about literally forcing someone to talk out, because we are taught that in education, right? We're bragging like, hey, none of my students, they don't get to hide in the back. Hey, you guys back there hiding. Nope, not my students. I call on everybody. Education says this. Education says, look, we need to get our students up, speaking, communicating, sharing, presenting. Here's the thing. Now, I'm going to pause here for a second. When I talk about certain things in neuroeducation, neuroscientists do this. They create categories. They say, hey, there's two types of learners. The reality is there's multiple types of learners. We just need it for that example. There's 7 different levels of this. The reality is there's tons of different levels. The brain doesn't work that way. So in this case, I'm going to say there's 2 types of learners in your classroom. There's multiple types, but I'm just using this example. In our example, speaking out, there are 2 types of students in your class: observer reflectors, speaker responders. I'm an observer reflector. I'm the guy that sits in the back. I'm not shy. I don't try to hide. I have long legs. I like to be back there so I can see everybody. I like to hear what people say. I like to reflect on it, and then I'll come back with an answer. I'll come back with something to add on. It doesn't take me 2 minutes. Sometimes it takes me 24 hours. So when a teacher goes, blah, 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 hey, Matt, what's the answer? And I go, I don't know yet. If a teacher says, hey, I'll come back to you, I'm giving him more thinking time. 2 minutes isn't going to help me, because now I'm freaked out. I got 2 minutes, what am I going to say? Because I haven't had time to reflect on it yet. I haven't heard what other people have said. And then the teacher will come back, yeah, I gave the students some thinking time, I did the right thing, because that's what we're taught to do. And then I blurt something out. I hope it made sense, because I didn't really listen to what I was saying. And then I reflect on it all day, hoping I didn't look like a moron. Because that's what observer reflectors do. We need to reflect. I might go, teacher, come back to me tomorrow and I have some good stuff. Show of hands, and there's a lot of us. How many of you are observer reflectors? See that many hands out there? Thank you so much. And I would say, I'm terrible at math. I would say, it wouldn't be wrong for me to say 80% of you raised your hand. But we're not supported in education as much as the speaker responders are. Now, the speaker responders, we need those as teachers. You need those as parents. You need someone. How many of you have these students where you're in class speaking out, and all of a sudden, you ask a question, and boom, the same hand shoots up every time? And in education, we're told, hey, little Joey, you always answer. Let's let someone else answer. I just shut that person down. That person needs to speak, needs to respond, and needs to add on to make meaning. That's what that person does. Sometimes, and I hate to say this, teachers, sometimes that includes the people that mumble or joke under their breath. So if I'm teaching Romeo and Juliet, and I'm like, the nurse is the comic relief in Romeo and Juliet, and little Joey goes, dude, your mom's a nurse. And I'm like, what? Don't interrupt me. He's making a connection. I don't know Joey's mom, but somehow he sees Joey's mom as the nurse or the comic relief or whatever. He sees that, so he's making a connection. The speaker responders learn best when they can speak out quickly and respond and add on. That connects the information. How many of you are speaker responders? Cool, we need you in class. Education tends to support speaker responders more because it's like, we need you to talk, get up, present, talk, and then we yell at our students. I don't mean yell. Get at our students when they don't respond. You need to talk more, and then we start bad-mouthing. Oh, this is my quiet class. Why don't you talk more? I don't bite. We make jokes out of it. 80% of us aren't supported. So I bring that up because the takeaway is it's okay to let your observers be observers. It's okay to let your speaker responders be speaker responders. Let your speakers be speakers and highlight those. And sure, if you have the same person every time that raises his or her hand, there's nothing wrong with looking out and scanning first before you go call the person, of course, because we need those speaker responders. But let your observers be observers. So let's get into what is brain-based learning. Now, parents, this is so important because throughout the presentation, I'm going to reference education. But education in raising a child, being a parent and being a teacher, the parents of the classroom, right? It's a parallel. They're very, very similar. You just adjust the terminology with what works for you. But what is brain-based learning? The thing about brain-based learning is you hear a lot in education. People are starting to put these terms on everything because it lends instant credibility. Right? It goes based on the brain. My curriculum, how the brain learns. I teach to the brain. You know, research-based, science-based. If you've done any research, you know those terms are very loose. Here's the reality. All learning is brain-based learning. Every single bit. Because learning cannot happen without the brain. Even the most inefficient teacher, the one who gives a packet on Monday, says finish it by Friday, sits in the desk, and just keeps everyone silent working on a packet all week, which is very inefficient. That's brain-based learning. It's terrible, but it's also brain-based learning. And here's the thing. Sometimes that happens when we as teachers put our assignments for the week on Canvas or whatever the learning management system is and says, hey, students, finish it by Friday. We're kind of doing that too. Students want us to get up, want us to interact with them and talk to them. So what we need as teachers and what we need as parents is, okay, if all learning is brain-based learning, what's the most efficient way for our brain to learn? Right? What's the most efficient? Can I back up a little bit? I was not planning on saying this. This is how my brain works, right? Remember I said there's speaker responders and observer reflectors. I'm an observer reflector. I realized as soon as I said it, but I tried to let it go, that I screwed the joke up. Because I said, Joey, your mom's a nurse, right? I meant to say, Joey, your mom's a comic relief. I screwed that up. But see, this is how I'm like killing myself for screwing up. But here's what, I tell you that, I'm honest with you, because that's what observer reflectors do. We reflect while we're still learning. And so we need to support ourselves and to support those observer reflectors. So thank you for allowing me to tell you that I screwed the joke up earlier. But that's okay, now I can move on and not reflect on it. So we as teachers, we need to know what is the most efficient way for us, for the brain to learn, because that will help us. Parents, what's the most efficient way for us to get our message to our children? Right, so they can really understand where we're coming from. And so as teachers, how do we know that? The way we learn what the most efficient way for us to teach is we have to really know how the brain learns. So I'm going to explain to you how the brain really does learn, and it's based on 3 simple things. If you remember nothing from this presentation today, remember A, I screwed my Romeo and Juliet joke up, and B, remember how the brain learns. This will explain so many things in our lives. The brain makes meaning, the brain learns, those are both metaphors, but from these 3 things, action, prediction, reaction. So for every action that happens, our brain will take every scenario that we've had with that action, predict what's about to happen, send chemicals to our body to tell us how to react. We interpret that as feelings. That's what causes us to feel a certain way. Let me explain. Let's say I'm here as a presentation. Let's say you're in an office. You're in an office, you're sitting there, you're working. Person 1 walks into the room. The action, person came in, your brain's going to see that person. Your brain is now going through every single experience you've had with that person. The ones that are the most recent, that's the ones that are kind of in the forefront, right? Then your brain is going to say, okay, I know how that person's going to probably treat you, prediction, send you some neurochemicals, and then tell you how to react. So let's say your best friend walks in the door. Your brain is going to go, ooh, you're going to like this conversation. Your best friend treats you really well, right? I'm going to give you a little serotonin, I'm going to give you a little dopamine because you're going to really enjoy this conversation. And that's how you react. Joey, oh my gosh, what's up, right? Let's switch it. Let's say you're in the office, the teacher's lounge, you're at the house, you're at a store, whatever, and you see someone, the action. And your brain goes, ooh, every experience I've had with that person, the most recent ones will be prioritized. And you go, oh, your brain goes, every time that person sees you, that person devalues you, that person does not make you feel good, that person will take whatever you say and turn it against you, so don't say anything. That person's going to use sarcasm to hurt you. I'm going to give you a little cortisol so you can leave if you need to. And that happens instantaneous. That's what our brain does for every single thing, and it's constantly doing it. That explains why my friend who went to war comes back, and whenever he hears a sprinkler system go off, he jumps a little bit. Because the action, sprinkler system goes off. His brain predicts gunfire, tells his body to react out. That also explains why if someone's afraid of dogs, when they were a year old, maybe they got nipped by a dog. Even if they're 7, they're like a little hesitant of dogs. Action, prediction, reaction. But here's the great thing. Every interaction is an opportunity to enhance or confirm a prediction. So every time you interact with your child, every time you interact with your students, is a chance for you to either enhance, make their prediction better, or confirm a prediction. Let me back up a little bit. The brain doesn't like to be wrong on its predictions. So let's use a scenario when the guy came in that was a jerk. You're in the office, guy comes in, you're like, oh my gosh, this is not going to go well because your brain predicted that the guy's not going to treat you well. That guy comes in and says, look, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I've been a jerk to you. I've never respected you. I should. I've had personal problems in my life. That's on me, not on you. I promise you I'm going to treat you better. I'm going to do better. And I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Your brain's like, wait, what? That was different. That's called learning. Now we've learned something. Our brain will adjust for the experiences that we have. So next time you see that person, your brain's still going to be like, hey, he's been kind of a jerk, but last time he was actually kind of cool. You're not going to get as much cortisol. You won't be as anxious. Especially if the person now keeps coming and goes, dude, Joey, what's up? Oh my gosh, so good seeing you. And the more and more that person does that, your brain will change how it predicts. That's called plasticity. So you can literally rewire your brain. So imagine this. You have the students, and every time that student comes in and you're like, oh, that student's here. There's a reason for it. Your brain's telling you that student's going to talk, even though the student hasn't talked yet. Sunday night, when you're anticipating something happening and you get nervous, it's because your brain's predicting it's going to happen, even if it doesn't happen. Parents, when your children are deciding which one of you to go to, mom or dad, to get what he or she wants, it's because the brain has predicted which one's going to say no. Go to dad, dad will say yes. Go to mom, mom will say yes. And knowing that is so powerful because I'm an English teacher, so I'm going to say English. I'll use English as an example. If a student has never had a good English class, I teach 9th grade. I'm like the gateway teacher, right? In the high school. My role is so important because I set up the rest of the year, the remaining 4 years for them. If I have a student that's never had a good English teacher, and they hate English, and they failed English, and they just don't connect, they're going to come to my class on day 1 already hating English. It's my job to either confirm that they hate English or change their prediction. And it may not take overnight. Teachers, I'm going to say this respectfully. If you know, or if you are a teacher that may be kind of like, admin, if whenever you see a teacher, you yell at them, or your tone is like, or you change to this like lecture person, it's not too late. Because literally, my clicker isn't working. Literally, starting Monday, you can change. What's today's Tuesday? Sorry. Starting tomorrow, starting Wednesday, you can change how you act. And it may take a week, a month, 2 months if you want to change your tone to certain students. Parents, if you're one of those parents that are always like on the child and go, wait, maybe I should change my tone a little bit. It's never too late. Right? You start tomorrow, changing and adjusting your tone. So I want to mention a couple things really quickly for parents. I already said this, but when kids do ask you questions, they really do want to know why. Try to stay away from them because I said so. Because then they're going to predict that they're not going to get a good answer from you. How you react to your children will set the tone for communication. So when we tell our kids, hey, you can come to us with anything, judgment-free. Come to me if you ever have a problem. Hey, Dad, I tried a beer last night. What? Don't ever do that, blah, blah. And you yell at them. Now they're going, oh, I can't really come to Dad. Or, hey, Mom, I broke your vase. You broke my favorite vase? Oh, my gosh, how could you do that? Now they're going, I can't admit to when I make a mistake. And I use this example. My wife has a family friend, and her kids are amazing, but they're constant liars. Because the mom anytime something happens, they do anything incorrect, they make a mistake, the mom yells at them and demeans them. They're the coolest kids, but they lie about everything to protect themselves. So knowing all of that allows us that, okay, if my daughter's 7, I want her to come to me with anything. So I need to know that when she does come to me, I need to be open and accepting and listen to her. And try not to judge. Guide and teach, but try not to judge. Because I want her to keep coming to me. With our students, we want that too. right? We want to be open with them and allow them to be open to us and be careful how we react. There's one thing when a student turns in something super late, it's one thing to go, hey dude, I'll accept it, but maybe next time turn it in a little bit on time. Is that cool? Yeah, sorry, Mr. Thomas. Rather than, you're this, you're that, you'll never be responsible, turn it in. Rather than lecturing, we need to start guiding more, right? Because we should be lucky that our students are coming to us in the first place, right? They may not have the best role models in their life. So, the takeaway, please be understanding as to why people act the way that they do. Attempt to create a positive interaction every single time. And every interaction is a way to enhance, change, or confirm a prediction. Great teaching and great parenting are based on two things, environmental and structural. And we're first going to talk environmental. So, creating an effective learning environment is so important. And when I say learning, I don't mean just teaching, but learning because, parents, let's be real, right? We're our biggest influence in our children's lives. Whether we know it or not. I never see my kid. They're off running off. Yeah, but you're always there. They always come home to you. Right? So we have to create that environment that's more comfortable. If it were in the classroom or parenting, it's the same thing. First, there's 4 steps to creating an effective environment. The first is we have to model the behavior that we want our students or our kids to project, to give back to us. Here's the thing. I'm going to reference teenagers because I teach 9th grade, so I'm just going to reference teenagers. If you teach elementary school, thank you guys for a round of applause for the elementary school teachers, just to keep that round of applause going. Thank you for what you do, seriously. I'm going to talk about the impact that you have a little bit later on. But if I say teenagers, just change it to whatever you work with, right? Go preteens or, toddlers, whatever it is, kids. So teenagers model adult behavior. And the thing is, my job as a high school teacher is to make my teenagers great adults. My job isn't to make them great teens. They're already teens. I need to make them great adults. So here's the thing. Teens will model adult behavior. If you saw me speak 2 years ago, or even last year at this conference, I referenced mirror neurons. The thing is, neuroscience is always updating. Now they confirm there is no such thing as a mirror neuron. So they kind of use mirror regions. They call them mirror regions. Essentially, it's action, prediction, reaction. Right? Teenagers will model the behavior that they see. Let me give you an example here. So, a teen will say, hey, you got to give me respect, and I'll give you respect first. Give me respect first, I'll give you respect. A parent will say, no, I'm the adult. You need to give me the respect first, and I'll give it back to you. And if you put them side by side, it's the exact same argument. Because teens will model adult behavior. And knowing that is so powerful. So as a teacher, as a parent, you start doing the please and thank you. You start saying, hey, Julie, do me a favor, bud. Do you want to turn the light off? I got to show something on the projector. Oh, thank you so much. Right? Dude, thank you so much for picking that trash up. Parents, hey, do me a favor. Can you pick that up? Oh, thank you, son or daughter. Right? If you want to please and thank you, we got to start saying please and thank you. Right? Using tone there. I'm going to give you a perfect example of how it sums up in the house. So let's say both parents are working. They come in, they're tired. Both are tired, they've been working all day. Daughter's there. Wife goes to husband, hey, hubby, can you take the trash out? Husband says, oh, I'm tired, I'll do it later. He sits on the couch, I'm tired, I'll do it later. Wife goes, okay, cool. Later on, mother goes to the daughter, hey, daughter, clean your room. Daughter says, oh, I'm tired, I'll do it later. Mother goes, oh, no, you won't. You'll do it now, don't talk back to me. Daughter's confused. Because the daughter saw the two adults speak that way. Teenagers model adult behavior. They try to become better adults. And you guys, parents, are the biggest influence over your children. So oftentimes the question is, in my son or daughter, the words they choose or talking back or things like that, look at the other adults in their lives and see if it reflects how they speak to the other adults in their lives. So teenagers model adult behavior. Kids will definitely model the parental behavior of the adults that are around them. Knowing that, as a teacher, it's so valuable and important. As an admin, it's so important for our teachers as well. We want to model that positive behavior in class. Admin, we want to model that positive behavior for our teachers. Parents, we want to model that positive behavior for our kids. But it may not happen overnight if it hasn't happened there. As teachers, we know we got 200 students. Each student has their own adult figure in their life. They may not have the most positive adult figures. We're working against that. So maybe there's a student that's always giving us challenges. And maybe we're challenging them back. Oh, Joey, why do you always do this? Versus, hey, what's up, Joey? As soon as Joey walks in the room. Remember action, prediction, reaction? Picture if one of you walked in the room. And we were all like, dude, oh my gosh, it's great seeing you. Imagine every time you walked in the room, eyes lit up because you walked in the room. How good that would make you feel. That's what our kids should feel. That's what our kids can feel. Imagine what our students can be, even during lunch and we're tired. They're coming in to see you for a reason. And you're like, yo, what's up, Joey? Versus, oh, it's during lunch, Joey. Come back later. Right? Make them feel good. With our kids, smile with your kid. When you get home from work and your kids come up to you, smile and give them that big hug. Right? So, So it may take some time, but you want to model that behavior that you want in class. So the first model the behavior. The second step in creating an effective learning environment, calm the distractions. Have you guys ever heard of the amygdala hijack? You ever heard that before? Cool, 2 of you. Okay, then I can skip this part. So the amygdala hijack essentially is an example of neuroscientists using a metaphor and education picking up that metaphor and creating reality about it. There is no amygdala hijack. What the amygdala hijack is this. So oftentimes people will say the amygdala is where fear lives in our brain. And if you're afraid of something, it will hijack the rest of your brain to where new learning can't happen. Now, it's not accurate about how the amygdala works. However, it's very accurate, the end result. If you are focused on something, if our students are focused on something, if our kids are focused on something, new learning is very difficult to happen. One of the things that the amygdala does is it is in charge of deciding if new experiences are worth remembering. So if I'm in class and little Joey is not paying attention because his grandmother's in the hospital, his brain is saying, you're teaching me Romeo and Juliet? Grandma in the hospital is more important. I'm sorry, Romeo and Juliet, I'm not paying attention to you. So as a teacher, I can get on him. Joey, you need to pay attention, blah, 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 blah. I'm creating more distractions. It's not going to help. Or I can be empathetic. That will help. Joey, I'm so sorry, your grandmother's in the hospital. Hey, you know what? Just go and put your head down, step outside if you need to. It's all good. You can get the notes later. I'm so sorry. Now, I'm calming the distractions. Now I know why when kids are distracted, they can't learn new things because their brain is hyper-focused on that main distraction. So as a teacher, the best thing you can do is if something's going on in the student's life, they got yelled at by their parents, they got yelled at by a teacher, you broke up with a boyfriend or girlfriend, issues are happening at home. Rather than getting on them and creating more distractions, honestly, the best thing for their brain is that you're empathetic. Hey, no problem, put your head down, you can get the notes later, it's all good, I'm so sorry. Then what happens is their brain starts to calm and go, oh, no, dude, I got this, no problem, thank you for understanding. Parents, when our kids come home and they had something that we would think is insignificant, but it's the biggest thing in their life, we have to remember we were 14 once too. And it's time, and being empathetic, gosh, I'm so sorry that you asked that girl to the dance and she said no. I know that's tough. Rather than, there'll be more. We know that because we're not 14 anymore. But for them, the best thing, be empathetic, calm that distraction. Hey, I'm so sorry, buddy. Let's go grab something to eat or something, right? Calm that distraction. Try not to create more distractions in their life. Especially when a teenager comes home to you, a kid comes home, tells you their issue, and you demean it. Oh, that's not that important. Oh, grow up. Now you're creating more distractions. You don't want that. The final 2 steps of creating a comfortable learning environment, whether it's home or at school, creating dopamine for students and creating dopamine for teachers. If you're a parent, creating dopamine for you. Here's the thing about dopamine. We have to understand what dopamine is. Dopamine is misunderstood oftentimes. Dopamine is oftentimes referred to as a feel-good hormone. The reality is that dopamine does many things. One of the things dopamine is responsible for is anticipation. Right? Birthday or a holiday's coming up, a kid's getting presents, dopamine. They're anticipating. They don't get dopamine when they open the present. They get dopamine because they're anticipating playing with the present or anticipating opening the present there. They're getting dopamine when you're thinking of a vacation coming up. Oh, weekend's coming up, dopamine. When you saw on the schedule that this session was being done at 11:30, dopamine, right? You were anticipating hopefully a good session. So we want that. We want our students to get excited about things. So we want to create lessons about that. I'm going to show you guys something. For the 2 people in the front that can see this. You guys ever seen these before? Like they're the surprise balls or surprise packets? I was going to get a smaller one, but with the crowd I knew I needed a bigger one. But hey, here's the thing. I was at Target this morning literally buying this. My daughter loves these. I don't because I understand them. They're to create dopamine. Dopamine's addicting. And we can use it. That could be a good thing. But dopamine's addicting, which is why social media is so addictive, because it creates dopamine. But the thing is we want dopamine. So we can use that to advantage. I'll get back to that in a second. My daughter loves these. I would rather buy her the toy that she wants rather than spending the money on something she may not like. Because if dopamine happens and you get disappointed, then the resistance against dopamine goes up. And that's not a good thing. It's like the kid that the dad always says, I'll be there for your birthday, and the kid gets excited and the dad never shows up. After a few times of that, the kid's not going to believe the dad at all. And not going to get that dopamine and actually become depressed because of it. But I use this because marketers know this. My daughter loves this because she knows she's getting these. Every time I do a presentation, I buy one of these. So she's excited right now knowing. But I have the pressure of picking out the one that I want her to have. Like, I think she'll like this. No joke. I was at Target for 20 minutes going, which one will she like? So I just got both, just because. But, But we want to create dopamine, give our students something to look forward to. Give our kids happiness and joy to look forward to. That becomes addicting. Teachers, if you create lessons that are fun and engaging for your students, they're going to look forward to coming to your class every single day because dopamine's addictive. This is the good part of dopamine that we want. Therefore, if they're in a class of a teacher they don't like, second period, oh, I hate this class. Ooh, Mrs. Johnson, third period, I love her class. They're going to come into your class more willing to learn. They're going to be more excited, and they're going to be ready because they're dopamine, right? They're getting that anticipation. Now, let's be real. Some days we just have to write the essay. But if you're the teacher that students will value, you make the students feel good, and you create lesson plans that are exciting, engaging, they view things holistically, not so much day to day. Parents, right? Your kid comes home to a big smile on their face, dopamine. Teachers, student raises their hand, you say, oh my gosh, thank you so much, that was a great response, dopamine. They're going to see more students start raising their hands. I'm going to talk about it a little bit later. This is something we never talk about though, creating dopamine in our teachers. Teachers get burned out. Teachers need to be excited about the job. Right? We need our teachers, we need to give them the freedom and the ability to create lessons that are fun for them to teach. I said this at the beginning. I don't teach for my students' enjoyment. I teach for me. I hated high school. When I was in high school, if you were to tell me I was going to teach high school, I'd be like, there's no way. I was going to be a professional fighter. And then I found out how much money they get for getting their heads bashed around. Now remember, this is like back in the day. And I went, no, I'll open up a gym instead. But the thing is, with curriculum that's so structured, right? With an institute that's so focused on the textbook, and the textbook's not meant to be engaging. Right? Little side story, textbooks are written to be very general. Because there's millions of dollars at stake. And if a textbook, I was told this by a gentleman who works at one of the big 4 companies, he wouldn't say which one, but he knew I would know who it was. And he said textbooks are meant to be written very general, that's what they're told. Because if they're meant to be innovative and engaging, or they focus a certain writing style, a district may go, oh, we don't support that, and then they lost millions of dollars. Textbooks are meant to support our instruction, not drive our instruction. But imagine being a new teacher that doesn't know that. And they think they're doing the right thing by opening the textbook day one on something that's dry intentionally. And teaching that way, and not making it engaging. And not making lessons that teachers can enjoy. Going back, I told you I hated high school. So when I became a high school teacher, I thought, how am I going to teach students the way I would have wanted to be taught? And so I bring in things that are fun for me. It's the same thing I do with these workshops. I do things that are fun for me, and I hope people enjoy it. And so if you're the Star Wars guy, be the Star Wars guy in school. Right? If you're someone that really enjoys Harry Potter, bring Harry Potter in your classroom. If you like to gamify stuff, gamify stuff. If you like heavy metal, where's our punk and heavy metal fans in here? Where's our teachers? The 3 of us unite. Thank you. But here's the thing. Students walk in your class. Day 1, they know I'm like, dude, punk and heavy metal listeners get extra credit. Where are you at? And 3 will raise their hand. And they go, you serious? I'm like, no, I can't legally do that. But now I'm their favorite teacher because they know I love punk and heavy metal. If we do that with all of our clusters of our students, now you become your student's favorite teacher. If we connect with our students somehow. And parents, if you connect with your kids somehow. And definitely don't be that, back in my day, when I was your age, they don't care. That's not how they learn. So we know, we adjust, and we always think of like back in my day or when I was your age or whatever, like we're living the same life they are. We have different experiences though, right? So we should work a little more together. But imagine this. Imagine being the teacher that can create lessons, still supporting the standards, in a way that you don't get nervous Saturday night because you have to go back to work Monday, but in a way that you get excited on Monday. Did I say Saturday night? See, I'm screwing this up. Sunday night, you don't get nervous because you have to teach on Monday. More you get excited. Oh, my students are going to love when I'm going to do the, for you Star Wars people, I put in a Star Wars agenda maker here in the slideshow, where you can put your agenda like on the Star Wars crawl, you know, the thing at the beginning of the movie. Imagine opening your class with the agenda that way. And your students are going to look forward to it every day. I'm going to show you a little bit of how I do that to create dopamine. So, creating an effective learning environment. Model the behavior you want. Calm the distractions. Don't create new distractions. Be empathetic to people. Create dopamine in your students and your children. Get them excited. And create dopamine in you, because that makes us love our job more, right? If we know we're going to enjoy it. So that will lead us quickly to something about how to get our students to respond in class. This is big for our teachers. And I'm only going to gloss over this quickly because you can apply it as parents, because this is how you get your students, your kids to talk to you more. So ultimately, if you want your students to talk in class, this happens a lot. Oh, my students won't talk in class. It's my quiet class. I can't get them to respond. This is how you do it from day one. So really, you want to make, if you're a teacher, you want to make your teaching relatable. You want to make your questions something that they can relate to, something that they have stories of. Right? If I'm teaching autobiographical writing in class, I'll start with a story. I'll be like, hey guys, let me tell you about the time I got jumped outside of Carl's Jr. when I was 14. And they're like, ooh. And I'm like, it involved me breaking someone's leg. And they're like, whoa. Now they're curious, but it's relatable. Then I ask them, hey, what about a time when you learned a valuable lesson? Or if I'm teaching Scarlet Letter, hey guys, let me tell you about the time I got arrested when I was 14 for shoplifting. And then I ask him, please write about a time that you did something that you're really not proud of. And you're glad no one judged you now. The questions are relatable for 14-year-olds. Right? Now you get them talking because they have stories that they actually like to say. Show vulnerability. As a teacher and a parent, it's not wrong to show vulnerability. And to say, hey, when I was your age, this happened. As parents, right? When I was your age, this happened. I'm teaching you this. This is why I'm telling you this. As a teacher, like, here's how it applies to me. If you use quick writes in class, but you don't give up a personal story first, students won't feel comfortable responding back. Right? Make them feel comfortable. Show vulnerability. Invite their responses rather than demand. I'm going to talk about that and how to use that. And body language is so important. So, if you want your students to talk or raise the hand in class, after you've done something where you've shown vulnerability, you've set up a question, whatever they've written, try to stay away from the standard things. Like, all right, guys, who wants to share? Because I'm an observer reflector. Now I have to make an extra decision. I want to share. But now I have to decide if I really want to share or not. Does that kind of make sense? Don't ask that other question. Don't joke about it. Come on, guys, I don't bite. You know, this is my quiet class. We need to start talking more. Your students will act the way you tell them. Parents, your kids will act the way that you tell them. You're so irresponsible. You're so this. Have you been in like a grocery store and you see like a 3-year-old crying and the mom's like, you're always doing this? I'm like, dude, they're 3, first of all. And kids don't want to disappoint their parents. So subconsciously, they're going to act the way that they're told that they act. So flip that on. Guys, I really appreciate that hard work that you did that there. Oh my gosh, thank you guys so much for doing what you do. Change that response there. Try to stay away from even this question. Does anyone have any questions? Because now I'm the observer reflector. I now have to raise my hand and show vulnerability, which I may not be comfortable with. Then I have to ask my question. And I don't want everyone turning around and looking at me. So as a teacher, here's what you should do. As a parent, here's what you should do. Invite more. Meaning, all right, guys, what questions do you have? Now I've taken away the do you want to ask. No, what do you have? It's time to throw it on me. Set up like all right, guys, so I got arrested when I was shopping, blah, blah, blah. Can I ask you, when was the time that you, notice my body language, notice me stepping forward. Let me do this down here to show you how I really would do it. Right? All right, guys, when was the time that you felt vulnerable or whatever? Open hand, stepping forward. I'm not back here, I'm invited. Guys, who questions? Please, questions, what do you have? Or, would someone mind please sharing your thoughts? Now, when someone does raise their hand, when your child does come to you, then you're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Praise them for raising their hand. Listen to what they say intently. If it's a sadder story, be like, oh my gosh. If it's a happy story, like, smile. Not in a creepy way. But like, not. Like, you're listening to them. You don't have to stare at them. If you guys notice, I don't stare at you, I look at your foreheads. It's a coping skill for me. If I stared at you, it'd be so weird. It's so uncomfortable. You guys? So when your student's talking, you don't have to stare at the person. It's weird. You can be like, it's like you're really attentively listening. Listen to them. Don't judge them. Your kid comes to you because he had an issue with a friend who was doing something that your kid knew was wrong, and they're coming to you. Listen. And be like, dude, first of all, thank you so much for coming to me. Praise them for doing it. There's the dopamine. You praise your student for raising the hand. Other students see that it's safe to raise a hand in your class. Then you praise them again after you hear the story. To Joey again, thank you so much. Others. Right? Body language. Open, inviting, stepping forward. Next person raises their hand. Oh, Johnny, thank you. Johnny tells a story. You're listening. You're like, oh my gosh, you're not judging. You're listening. Johnny, thank you so much for that. Others. And so now what happens is you do this from day one if you're a teacher. Now students know it's comfortable in your class to raise their hand. They're getting dopamine because they know every time a hand goes up, you're acknowledging them, you're praising them. Other students want dopamine, they're going to also be doing that as well. Within 2 weeks of these type of exercises, these type of things, your students would know they can raise their hand comfortably in class. Parents, a couple times if your kid's coming to you and you're acting this way and you're not judging, you're inviting, and you're praising them for thank you so much for coming to me, they know they can be comfortable coming to you. So, going back to our question, what is the most efficient way for the brain to learn? I already gave the textbook talk, so I'm going to leave that out. So, our brain learns with these components. This is a very efficient way, and I'm going to go through quickly with these. But the first is curiosity. This is the one I'll spend the longest on, because this is the most important. Curiosity is the most important part. It's the first step, and it's the most important step of learning. We are born with an innate curiosity. We need curiosity to grow as an individual. Right? When you're a baby, you wave your hands in front of your eyes because you're curious. When you're done being curious, you stop. Right? You stick your toes in your mouth because you're curious. You roll over because you're curious. You crawl, you walk because you're curious. Curiosity leads to growth. I'm up here because I'm curious. My curiosity with neuroscience led to interest. That is so important. Curiosity will lead to interest. Interest can lead to motivation. Motivation can lead to intrinsic learning. If your students want to learn, they teach themselves. Parents, here's the one thing I will tell you. If your son or daughter has not found what they're curious yet, what they're interested in yet, it will happen. And sometimes we don't know when it's going to happen. So it's great to expose them to multiple opportunities to become curious about things. It's great to be like, all right, how about try this? How about try that? And be careful of the parent who says every time my student tries something, I make them finish it first. Because action, prediction, reaction. Now your child is learning that they want to try something, they're curious, but if they don't like it and they don't have the freedom to try something else, they have to finish it even though they don't like it. Now they're going to be hesitant to try something else. It's like my friend who wanted to try baseball, so his dad made him do baseball, and he hated it. And his dad made him finish the entire season because we're teaching that. And he never wanted to try something. He would tell him, dude, I want to try this, and my dad's going to make me finish it if I don't like it. And I don't want to go through that. So we have to be careful with that. So, going back to dopamine, I already talked about dopamine, so I'm not going to reiterate it. But curiosity, the thing about that is it's fleeting. This came out a few years ago, fear of missing out, FOMO. People identify fear of missing out. What it really is curiosity. Let's say we have a box in our classroom, and we tell every student they can look in the box except for Joey. Joey can't look in the box. It's not fear of missing out. He just wants to know what's in that box. Curiosity. And so that's so important. We want to get our students curious. We want to get our kids curious. There's a link to a curiosity video I did. Wherever you see an underline, it's just a link to a video I did. But the thing is this. In education, oftentimes, we skip curiosity and jump to the interest part. And so we'll say something like, share an experience when you learned this or this. That's not curiosity. That's a statement. That's just a question. We want to spark curiosity. Curiosity is what ignites the interest. I'm up here doing neuroscience stuff because I'm really interested. The birth of my daughter is what sparked curiosity. Curiosity can be fleeting, though. It can be just a few seconds. Curiosity is what brought you here. Interest is hopefully what keeps you here. right? That's on me now to keep you interested. So we want to make sure. So what I did for you teachers here, I gave you all the different things that I do in my class to spark curiosity. I use statements to intrigue. So like with my students, I'll say, hey guys, tomorrow I'm going to show you guys the only legal way that all of you become a millionaire. All of you can be rich. I'm going to show that tomorrow. See ya. Or I say, hey guys, tomorrow I'm going to show you how to get free stuff. Bye. And they come to my class because they're curious now. And then I show them how to do complaint letter writing, right? Structured writing. How to use psychology to influence people to do what you'd like them to do. That's how I word it. And then I told my students, I showed my students a complaint letter that I wrote years ago to a pizza place. Very respectable the way I worded it. I got 5 free pizzas. From I had one issue with one pizza, it wasn't even that bad, but I got 5 free pizzas. And I showed my students how to do it. Anyway, a couple weeks later, I had a student named Armando. And Armando goes, Mr. Thomas, you remember that time you showed us the complaint letter? I'm like, yeah, a couple weeks ago. He said, my sister used it. And she went to KFC, she got a stack of free KFC chicken and sides coupons. And I said, that's awesome. What was wrong with her order originally? What was wrong? What was her problem? And he goes, there was nothing. She just wanted to see if it would work. Okay. But here's the thing. Then other students started to try it. And I'm not making this up. I have a list of free stuff they got. Free Magic Mountain passes, free Amazon Kindle, 2 million free points on some online game that the student goes, dude, that's a lot of money's worth. Because of how they did it. They worded it in a certain way. Right? Adjusting how you word things can influence people to do what you'd like them to do. How we word things with our students and our kids will help influence how we do that. So you state this intrigue. Do you guys remember direct instruction back in the day? Specifically, do you guys also have a whiteboard in your classroom where you had to write down the objective and stuff? Well, when I got into my new classroom, that whiteboard was still there. I didn't really know what to do with it, so I started putting a pun of the day up or a joke of the day. And I never even told students, I just did it. They'd walk in and start reading. That's the first thing they started doing. They were trained after a few days to read that pun. If I didn't put one up, they would yell at me. And so I included a few teachers, every pun I put up for every day. If I was a math teacher, I'd be putting like Math Mean Monday. That's what I would do. I'd put up science puns every day if I had to do it. The Star Wars agenda, check-in slides, I put those for you guys. But I use games a lot as well. And I wanted to ask you if you guys don't mind humoring me for just 30 seconds. So I'll use games a lot when I don't have my glasses so I won't mess this up. I use games a lot in my class when I'm starting a unit. And I'll be like, hey Joey, do me a favor, can you turn the lights off? Dopamine. Joey knows something cool's about to happen. And then I'll say, let's play the newest game, Soup of the Nation. You guys remember like Price is Right, Wheel of Fortune, remember that one? So the students would yell out the name of the game, and they tend to be kind of funny and long, etc., etc. But would you guys mind humoring me and playing this 30-second game with me? So literally what I did was, I'm a big believer when you teach poetry or when you're analyzing a poem, you have to be able to look at the author's real life, what's happening currently going on in their life, and what happened to lead up to their life, so you can properly analyze it. And so I looked at Edgar Allan Poe, and I did this thing about the good things and bad things that happened in his life. And so I would have the students, I'm going to ask you if you guys could do it too. When I show a fact, when I say a fact of Poe's life, can you say, oh, when it says, oh, and say, yay, when it says, yay. So for example, here we go. So the first one, I got to point to the right thing. Poe was born in 1809, giving his parents and the world an incredible author. So the audience would respond, yay! Awesome, thank you. Poe's parents died 3 years later. Aww. Poe's adopted by a rich family. Yay! His adopted parents disown him. Aww. Before they disowned him, they sent him to a great college. Yay! With only enough money to cover a third of the expenses. Aww. Now this goes on and on and on. You get the idea. The point is, I do these if I'm teaching, I do this to spark interest with the unit that I'm doing. And then rebus puzzles, fun debates, math starters, and sentence frames. So I put that in there for you teachers as well. So now, once the students are interested, once we get our children curious about being a doctor, whatever it is we want our students, once we have our students curious about, whatever it is, how do we keep them interested? So what we need to do, once they're interested, enjoyment with achievement. We want them to continue enjoying what they're doing, but feeling like they're getting good at it. I'll use an example. My dad's a carpenter and a mechanic. Imagine if he started changing oils, but then never learned anything else about the car. He's going to lose interest in what he's doing. My dad's a carpenter as well, but he started by doing drywall, and then he got good at it, but he got interested in learning new things. So then he started framing. I'm not a carpenter, so I'm not sure what that is, but I'm guessing it has to do with the house. Then he started doing roofing. Then he started to get his license for stuff. Now he's one of only 8 people that can inspect hospitals in California. The point is, he enjoyed what he was doing, but he also felt like he was getting better. So the way we support our students, the way we support our kids, parents, if your kids find an interest in something, keep that going. Do what you can to support them getting better. That's going to keep it going. If you saw me speak here last year, you can see my presentation is totally different than what I did last year. Because I enjoy what I do, and I need to get better at it. And so that's what's going to keep me going. So there's a high correlation between what someone finds familiar and what they find enjoyable. So if a person does not have any familiarity with what they're doing, they're not going to enjoy it. If a person is too familiar with it, meaning as teachers and parents we're not supporting growth, they're going to get bored with it. So we want to keep them in that middle area where they're constantly learning and they're getting better at it, because that's what video game designers do. That's why our students love video games, because the levels are doable and they're just a little bit harder, they progress. That's why video game designers and social media hires neuroscientists and behavioral psychologists on their team, to make people better and keep enjoying what they're doing. So that's I'm going to go through the rest quickly. The longest one is that interest one. The second component of efficient learning, connecting the information. So our brain likes to connect what it is learning with something it already knows. And if you're gardening, I'm going to use my gardening analogy. That's neural pathways. Whenever you learn something new, a new neural pathway grows in your brain. And so for us to keep it there, we need to root it with something that it already knows. Because if not, we're going to have synaptic pruning. We're going to have literally the information be deleted, which is why math is so difficult for people to learn. Because math is very specific and it's very situational. Right? What I love about English is I can connect English to anything if I do my job well. So we want to be careful of synaptic pruning. So when you're teaching something, try to connect it with information that the students have already learned. Teach fewer concepts, more opportunity for the students to learn the information. Connect what they're learning in with the brain. So parents, if you're trying to teach your students a lesson, remind them of something that they did before or that you did. Try to connect those stories together. It's much easier for our students to remember. If a student comes home and says, I don't remember what I learned, it's probably accurate. Right? Because it's not connected with something that they already know. That's why I always love to use rap in poetry. Do you guys remember, what's the history one? Hamilton. Remember Hamilton? Right? Our students learn so much history through that one rap song. Because our brain loves patterns. Patterns are, though it's very efficient for our brain to learn, it's why we tend to have the same order of coffee, drive the same way, date the same type of people. We tend to hang out with the same type of people. We tend to talk a similar way. Our brain establishes a pattern. And so we can use that in education with our teaching. Right? With English, it's easy because I can create patterns in the writing. If I'm a math or history teacher or science, I would do rap in there. I use rap with poetry a lot because the brain likes that. I put links to all that for you teachers there. I also put links for the teachers on why students have trouble with certain things. I didn't want to go into this, but I wanted to at least give you the links for that. Why can't our students write intro paragraphs? Why can't our students write conclusion paragraphs? There's a reason why. I put that in there for you so you can watch it as well. Last final thing I want to talk about, real-world application. So as a teacher, as a parent, we want to make sure that what we're teaching in class can be applied to a student's real world. It makes it authentic. It's that question of like, hey, why are we learning this in class? Let me tell you why. And let me tell you how it applies to life. And as teachers, just saying because it's in the standard, it's not important to them, right? So we've got to make sure we show it the importance and the relevance, the application. Parents, when you're asking your student to do something, your child to do something, they say why, don't just say like I said, because I said so, right? You've got to show them that value, create that real world application. So I'm a big believer as a teacher, thinking about what you can, how many teachers had a previous career? Before you were a teacher, you had a previous career. Okay, I'm a big believer in taking what you did in your previous career, bringing it into the classroom. Like I had an English teacher, I was working with an English teacher a month ago, and she goes, I need something. And I said, okay, what did you do in your previous career? She said, I was the one that wrote the check for an insurance, if someone like injured themselves, I wrote the check for them. And I said, well, did you write more money depending on this kind of letter you got? Like if someone made a really good argument, did you pay them out more? And she goes, oh yeah. I'm like, you're an authority figure for methods of persuasion. You can teach English persuasion much better than a textbook can. So she created a lesson where she showed her students how to write a letter, an injury letter, to persuade to give her more money, and she would pay them fake money based on how good their letter was. They all got A's. It was an activity, right? Activity versus assignment. And she's like, the students loved it. And I know. I'm like, it's authentic too. So bring that into the classroom as well. So last thing I want to talk about is the structure. So what I did, and I'm going to do this is more for the teachers in here, is I put in lesson plan writing as far as the cycle of lesson planning. Right? This is the last thing we're in with. When you're lesson planning your class, there's a cycle of focus that our brain will go through. If you spend too long on one thing, it's going to get bored. And it's going to start to be distracting. They say there's no such thing as distracting. They say it's just being focused on another thing. I'm focused on you, now I'm focused on something else. I'm not distracted, it's just I'm now paying attention to something else. So we want to try to get our students to where we're at the point where we keep them to that one point and then move on to something else. Have you ever done something and you knew you went too long on it because the students were getting restless? Then you go, okay, I should have switched. And so when you're creating your lesson plans, you want to try to include an element of curiosity, creating some type of connection with your material, create a pattern, create that real-world application. How can you apply that knowledge that you learned in class to the real world and use different learning modalities? What you don't want to include in your lessons is busy work. You don't want that. Because you're going to lose credibility as a teacher, you'll lose credibility as a parent. Right? You want to make sure everything you do is authentic and has meaning. So when you're planning your lessons, have some type of curiosity start. Then have some type of middle thing. It's not the main part. The main part of the lesson is what your kids are going to remember when they go home. What did you do in English class? Oh, we wrote an essay. We did Romeo and Juliet. You didn't do it the entire time, but that's what they're going to remember. It's the main part. But you want to pace your lessons where you have some type of curiosity starter. The middler keeps them interested. The main is your main lesson. The finisher, you guys know like exit tickets and ticket out the doors? That's a big thing in education. Your brain doesn't need it. So it's not something that the brain doesn't care if you have it or not. You don't need to like tie it up in a bow at the end of class because we know learning doesn't always happen in 55 minutes. If your admin wants an exit ticket, do an exit ticket. But just know that it's not good or bad for the brain. The brain doesn't know, right? We're the ones that create kind of like the time frame there. The brain, you might not, what you're teaching, your students may not get for 2 years, right? That's just how learning happens. They might finally go, oh, now I get what she was saying. So you do want to have that mixed in there. I've given you guys that you can go home and look later, lesson plans for all different subjects. And parents, you can look through as well and see what a well-paced lesson would look like. Para-educators, you can look through and see like, hey, maybe I could suggest that my teachers do this that I support. Paras, I hear this a lot because I work with teachers, sped teachers a lot. This is what they tell me. They don't tell para-educators, I don't know why, but they come to me and they're like this. They're like, I wish great paras, if a great para could ask me what they can do to support me as a teacher, that's what I would love. So paras, if you have a great relationship with your teacher, ask, what can I do to support you? A teacher will tell me, I want my para to get involved, but not too involved. Don't take over my class. But I want you to be more involved. One teacher told me, like, please assist all students. I know you're assigned to this students, but it would be great if you help me assist all students. And please stay off your phone. If the student that you're there to assist isn't doing much, I still need you to be aware of them. I hear that quite a lot. So to be a great parent, those would be things you can ask your teacher there. Final thoughts is this. So I will tell you this, and I know this beyond a shadow of a doubt. Your students can do whatever you want them to do, as long as you make the information accessible. Your students can learn anything you want them. Parents, your children have the ability to do anything you want. Unless there's a learning and development issue, that's different. But they have the ability to do anything you want, as long as you make it accessible and invite you for that. So please understand that. Here's what I want to do. I want to promote my second session, which is, if you show up to this one, the next one's going to be how a multilingual student's mind navigates learning based on science. What I showed you today was a general for everybody. But there are things that multilingual learners specifically go through in the brain that other students don't. 80% of the information that I talk about in that session is going to be brand new. I'm going to repeat my intro and tell the audience who I am. But 80% of the information will be brand new, my voice cracked, and very specific to multilingual learners. That's in Ballroom A, which is downstairs. It's the next session after lunch. I will say too, if you want me to come out, my district is very open to lending me out to support your teachers. YouTube channel, there's my YouTube channel, Teach Based on Science. If you are a coach and you want to be on my mailing list, I don't spam you, I share resources. We can all share, we all do the work, let's just share. And I can hang out and answer any questions for you guys. You're amazing. Thank you so much, like seriously.